Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron. I've been hammered down on groundskeeper here for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. I lost track of time and I've gotten a lot accomplished. So I've had people asking me when there's going to be another rumrunner video, and I kind of need a little break from groundskeeper, and I'm doing good on time. So I've decided I'm going to take one day. If I don't get stuff done today, I'm not going to come back tomorrow to finish it. I'm going to take one day and put in some work on old rumrunner here because I'd like to get it done too. So went down and visited my buddy Mr. Sibley over there at Sibley's Customs and picked up a few things. So got us a power steering pump and reservoir, pulley for it, brackets to make it all fit. I got a switch panel I'm going to use in it, and a thermostatic fan control kit for the electric fans. So my goal for today, if I can get it done, is to get the power steering pump installed, get my electric fans mounted, make a hold down for the radiator. And I don't even want to think about anything else because that sounds like a day's worth of work alone right there. So we're going to get started and we're going to see what we can get done with rumrunner today. If I get those couple things done in the engine compartment I want to get done, we'll do something else to it. I can't tell you what that'll be because I don't even know yet, but today's a rumrunner day. We're going to get going on this truck and see what we can get done. Alright, so this is the power steering bracket I got. It's got these 2 J-arms. The one has 3 holes in it, one has 2 holes in it. Mounts to the front of the pump, and then it mounts on the existing stud on the back of the pump. And this goes over the little leg that hangs down off of the water pump right here. Never installed one of these before. It's taken me a little bit today to figure this thing out, but I think we got it. So I'm gonna have to put this on and then check it out and then take it back off and put the pulley on it and then put it back on. Actually, no, I should be able to just put the pulley on now because that's going to determine where this little spacer goes, if it goes at the front of this or if it goes at the back. So let me get this pulley put on the power steering pump and then we'll be back at it. I got my pulley on. I got all my brackets on. Now I just need to set this up here. And it looks like this goes at the back. Not quite sure how I'm going to get it in there, but we'll figure something out. I don't know if you guys can tell or not, but this thing's kicking my butt. The first one of these that I've installed, and not really sure how it's supposed to go. Definitely has to go back here because I have to have it lined up with this inner pulley. So That spacer looks like it may be too big. I don't really know. But not gonna give up, because I don't do that stuff, so. Whole bracket is hitting that timing cover, so something's not right. So back to the drawing board. Let me try to figure it out again. Okay, so I found some instructions on it, went over them. Doesn't say anything anywhere in the instructions about using that little spacer. It says to hang those two J brackets from this leg off of the water pump and let it swing loosely, and then you pull these two water pump mounting bolts out. Alright, and we got these two bolts with these two spacers, and they go down here. Okay, now we got it mounted, and now that it's cocked up where that upper adjuster bracket fits, it takes that other bracket away, not away from the timing cover, but where it's just touching it instead of hitting the front of it. So I don't know that there's room for that spacer in there still. I don't know that that spacer's even supposed to go in there. I just assumed because the gap on that is further apart than the... I think it could go in there. And I think I may be able to get it in there, but we'll see. I'm going to tinker with that. You guys can't see what I'm doing down there anyways, so I'm going to see if I can't get this spacer in there where I think it should go, and see what comes of it. Alright, well, that took a lot longer than it should have, but we've got a power steering pump and bracket covered in sweat in the truck. Sweat everywhere. Got the hoses in. Everything's hooked up. Looks alright, not great, but looks alright. And we managed to make the older style small block Chevy pump, second oil pump and bracket work with the OBS box, and it's all together. Pulley pulley for the belt lines up nice. So we're in good shape. So like I said, it took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but that's all part of it. Sometimes it does, especially when you're putting stuff that doesn't belong in something, making it fit. So we got that done. Now we're gonna move on and see what we can come up with this radiator. All right, well, I know I said I was gonna start working on mounting the radiator, but I remembered that filler neck sticks up inch plus over the top of the core support, and I don't know if it's gonna clear the hood. So until I get the hood on and make sure I have clearance for it, I'm not gonna mount it, because I hate to do all the work to mount it if I just gotta take it all back apart again and move everything and come up with something else. So in the meantime, I pulled the seats out and vacuumed it out the best that I could, and it came out, I mean, the carpet's dirty, but it's in really good shape, so I think I can clean it really good and it'll be all right. Took the dash cluster out because I'm going to do some stuff with that. I'll show you guys that when I get the stuff I need to do it. And just kind of tinkering today. Not even sure what I'm going to do to finish up this video, but we'll figure it out, and we'll keep going. But I got it cleaned up at least. I wanted to at least get it cleaned up because I think I'm just going to pressure wash that carpet. And I didn't want to pull the carpet out with all the garbage and nasty in it. So got her cleaned up, looking better. So might want to fix that door too. It don't like the whole close function. It's good. So anyways, I've got a bunch of stuff to do to this thing, and just gonna work my way through it, film it as I go, and keep you guys going on it. All right, I'm doing this all out of order and it doesn't make any sense, but next project I'm gonna do, I went and bought a set of gauges, and I don't want to run the stock cluster. For one thing, it's got all the check engine lights and it's all computer controlled and all that, and I'm gonna eliminate all that stuff. So I went and bought these gauges. They're all electronic, so this will hook into the speed sensors on the transmission. I can use it, and I figured out how I'm gonna make it so everything fits in there and looks good. Here's the stock cluster. I took it apart. You take this plastic piece off, and then you can take this front part of the gauge cluster off. So what I'm gonna do is, right here along this line all the way around, I'm going to cut that out. And then once I get it cut out, I've got some 16 gauge steel here, and I'm going to cut it and keep the same pattern that this has, so I got my mounting tabs. And then I'll drill holes in that 16 gauge plate, slide this back over it so everything fits in the dash the way it's supposed to, and then put it all together. And then I'll be able to wire these gauges in, make my own little wiring harness for them, and I'm basically eliminating the wiring harness from this truck. The only thing that I'm going to use is the wiring to the headlights and the wiring to the tail lights, and probably about it. I'm gonna make everything else myself. So little project I'm gonna do right now is making this gauge cluster. I have to replace the dash. I think I showed you guys before, but this one's completely shot. There's nothing left at the top of it, and these dashes are hard to come by, and I haven't been able to find any in the aftermarket, but I did find one. It's up by where my parents live, pretty far away, and they're able to get it for a reasonable price, but they have to pull it themselves. So my dad's gonna go try to pull it. He's never done it before, and I don't know that he's real comfortable doing it, but he's gonna go try to get it out for me so he can bring it down to me next time he comes. So I'm gonna go ahead and have the gauge bezel ready, then I can make the wiring harness up going to it, and all that stuff, and then when the new dash comes we'll be able to change it out. But so yeah, so that's the project we're working on right now. Let's get started. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is cut this out, and in order to do that I'm going to drill holes in the corners where I can get a bit in there to cut it. Actually, I might not even have to. I can probably use these holes here and down here and just get in there to it. So we'll try that, see what happens. I'm going to get my little buzz saw and I'm going to cut right along this. I'm not going to get too close to it because I can go back and clean it up with a file or something so it looks better. But we're going to get this cut out. I got that cut out. Sorry about the air compressor. I got that cut out and I didn't take it all the way tight where I wanted it. I left some on there. So now I can go back and clean it up. I probably left more than I needed to clean it up, but that'll be alright. I'd rather take too much or not enough and have to do more work cleaning it up than take too much. So I'm going to go ahead and get a file and stuff and clean this up to where we want it, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. I got this all cut out, filed it all down. Came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. So next thing I'm going to do is take this and put it on here, and then I'll trace the outline of it all with this Sharpie here, and then I'll take my cutoff wheel and cut the bigger piece off that I don't need, and then I'll go over on my bandsaw and we'll cut out all the little notches and stuff, and then we'll have that going, and then I'll show you how I'm going to lay out gauges and stuff like that. So here we go. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and trace this out, and I'm going to trace the inside and the outside so that the outside obviously so we have our size, and then I'm going to do the inside also because then I'll know where that edge is for when I lay my gauges out. So alright, got that laid out. Now I'll come with my cutoff wheel and cut it along here, and then we'll get on the bandsaw and take these notches out and do this here, and that'll get us where we need to be. got as good as I could with my bandsaw here. So now I'll just go back with a little grinder and I'll just clean that up, clean up those a little bit, and round off the corners a little, and then we'll move on to setting out our gauges. Alright, so I got my piece all cut out and cleaned up. It's not perfect, but there's a little bit here that ain't perfect, and there's a little bit over here that ain't perfect, but it's going to be covered up, you won't see it, so good enough. So what I want to do is find the center on this. So this is about 14. So I'm going to mark that at 7, which the center of the steering column is offset a little bit. So that's going to throw you off, but the overall, like if I measure from my mark I just made, so that's 7 out to that line, that's 6 inches, and that's 6 inches. So the opening that you're going to see is even. The column's just offset a little bit. So I'm going to make the gauges even so they look, so they're proportionate in the opening. I'm not going to worry about where the steering column is. So take my center mark. Draw a line down it. And then I'm going to measure here. It's about 7, so we need 3.5. 3.5. Run a mark here. Here. Alright. So that's our center of the panel, but I just screwed up because that's not the center of our opening. And that's what I want, is the center of the opening. So that's going to be right here. Bear with me guys, I'm figuring this out as I go. Somehow I marked that line in the wrong spot. That line's right. So okay. So this top line here is the center of our opening, and this line here is the center of our opening. So now what I need to do, take my gauges, measure them, it's like just shy of 3.5. So maybe we can put one there, if I have to, I'm gonna leave the tack out because I don't need it, but I need all the other gauges. So. Alright, I'm going to make this easier on myself. These holes in this piece of cardboard are the perfect size that we need for the gauges. So I'm going to take and cut those out and use that as a template to lay onto here. So I know this video is kind of all over the place and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm not feeling the greatest and I'm trying to push through because I want to get a video out and I want to get work done on this truck. So bear with me. I'm going to keep pushing. We're going to get some stuff done. Let me get that going and I'll be back. Cut that cardboard out. Made myself little templates here that are the size of the gauges. We're going to see what we can do. Don't think I'm going to be able to get the tack and the speedometer and all four. Yeah, I know. They're never going to fit. So, not going to use the tack. Going to center the speedometer right here in the middle. Now we're going to put our other four gauges just like that. That was my original plan. I wasn't even going to buy a tack, but I got a good deal on buying this whole set. Everything matched. And these are Dolphin brand gauges. If you guys have been watching the channel for a long time, I used Dolphin gauges on the 49 and they worked out really well. They come with everything that you need to hook them up and they do a good job. So I like them. They look good and they're going to work out good for our application. So now I need to decide where I'm going to put these exactly and mark our centers, and then I can get hole saws and punch this out. So we'll measure on here. About 3 and 3 and about a quarter. So that'd be 1.5 inches would be half a 3 and half a quarter would be an 1/8. So go 1.5 inches plus an 1/8. That'll be right there. And then 1.5 inches plus an 1/8. Right there. There. Okay, so to have this speedometer centered, it's going to be right there. When I use the hole saw, I know that that's my center. That's just kind of for reference. So, and what I'll do is, if you guys have ever hole sawed, so I need my hole to be 3 1/4. Now if I get a 3 1/4 hole saw, if they even offer that size, I don't know if they do, but it's gonna make it bigger than 3 1/4, and then I'm gonna run into problems. So what I'll do is just use the 3-inch hole saw, center it up, drill my hole, and then if I have to take a little die grinder or something and open it up a little bit, then we'll do that. But now these are 2 inches exactly. So from the edge to the outside of that gauge is 4 1/4. So I want to go 2 1/8. And I'll come over here. And go 2 1/8 right there. Okay. Now, I'm going to measure from my center. My opening. I want to equally put the 2 gauges in the sides. I don't want to center them on my center line because that's going to throw off. Man guys, I can't even think straight today. Let me figure this out. I'll get this marked. You guys get the idea of what I'm doing. I'll figure it out, I'll get it marked, and then we'll get ready to drill some holes. Alright, went ahead and drilled pilot holes. So I made sure I got them good and centered. And now I'm just going to go back and alright, well, got my holes finished. It took some constructive hole saw work, and then had to take a little carbide bit on a die grinder and clean them up a little bit. But I think it turned out pretty good. It's right over there behind you. Just turn around, you'll see it. Came out pretty good. Just what I wanted. Everything measures out. It's even. It looks good. I like it. So you might notice some extra holes. There's one here, one here. I'm gonna put little green lights in there down at the bottom, and these two, that's gonna be right turn, left turn, and then I'll have a blue one to put up here for my high beam indicator, and then I'll have all my functions that I need for the truck. There's not anything else that would require a light. So I'm super happy with it. I think it turned out great. You can see over here, the hole saw kind of went rogue on me a little bit. So my first attempt's gonna be high fill primer. I'm gonna get ready to take it over and I'll shoot it with high fill primer. And then I'll let it sit overnight and sand it tomorrow. And if the high fill fills that up and smooths it out, then we'll shoot some paint on it and be in business. If the high fill doesn't fill it up, then I'll I'll just skim coat it with some Bondo, whatever it takes to make it look smooth. I don't want to leave that. Kind of looks like the water temp gauge has a mohawk or something. It looks kind of weird. So, but I'm super happy with the way it's coming out. My dad was able to find a dash. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not. And he's coming down this weekend, so he should be bringing it with him. So we can get the dash done. Get this gauge cluster in after we get the wires set up for it. I think up front, other than putting the grill and the headlights and stuff in, all I got to do is mount the radiator and wire it, which I can't do until I put the hood on, which I got to wait till my dad comes this weekend to help me. And put the hood on, put the grill in. I haven't found a bumper yet, but the front will be pretty well done. And then I've got seats and the dash is coming. I'll clean that carpet and do something with the door panels. The interior will be pretty well wrapped. I just got to lower the rear end some more and put an exhaust on it, and we'll be ready to fire this thing up for the first time. So I'm gonna go shoot some high fill primer on that. I'm gonna go home. When I come back in the morning, I'll fire this camera back up and I'll show you guys how it turned out before I start sanding or anything, and just keep going through the process. But I've had this idea for these gauges in my mind for a while, and it turned out pretty much exactly how I wanted it to. Once I get it painted, I can permanently mount the gauges on that plate, and then we can set all the stuff back together and show you what it's going to look like. So hang tight, we'll get to that in a second. All right, I got a few coats of primer on it. Let it sit all night. I built it up pretty good with primer. So now I'm going to take like some 220 sandpaper on my DA and see if I can sand these scratches out of the primer. If I can't, then we'll mix up a little bit of Bondo and fill it that way. But there's the update on this. I'm gonna go ahead and sand that down, and I'll show you what it looks like after we sand it. See if we can get those scratches out. One way or another, we're gonna get them out, but I'm hoping the primer does the job. So we'll see here in a minute. Well, the primer, building up the primer didn't work. So I went and got some glazing spot putty. Filled it in, sanded it all back down, and now we're back to being ready to paint it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some paint on it, and then we'll let it sit there and dry. So we're making slow but steady progress. So we'll get her painted up and start getting it put back together. All right, I know there hasn't been a lot of progress in this video, just kind of me tinkering around with my own truck. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I haven't been feeling good the last couple days. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I don't let stuff like that keep me down. Like, if I can get up and get out of bed in the morning, I can go to work, and I'm gonna be over here and I'm gonna be doing something, whether it's huge production or just here doing something. Usually makes you feel better, stuff like that. So been working on my truck. I'm going to show you guys what we got going on with the gauge cluster here in a second, because I'm going to finish putting it together and I think it's going to turn out really cool. But I didn't do a whole lot of work on the truck today. I put the fuel pump on it so I could start working on the fuel system, and I don't know if the fuel pump that I got is going to work, because I can barely put my finger between the inlet and the frame rail. So I'm gonna try a couple things, see if I can get that to work. If not, I'm gonna see if I can get a pump with a different orientation on it. And if that doesn't work, I'll put a block off plate on that sun gun, go to a electric pump and a regulator, and call it a day. I've had a lot of issues with electric pumps in the past, so I try to steer clear of them if I can help it, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to get what you want. So that being said, today I organized my shop. Not perfectly, but the best it's been since I moved in. So I'm just going to give you guys a little tour of some stuff you've probably seen before, and show you what I did, and then we'll finish putting that gauge cluster together. So I know you guys have, if you watch the channel regularly, I know you guys have seen the paint booth before. And my notorious pile of bolts here on the floor. Well, I've had that pile of bolts and bins with those bolts just stuffed in them for, I'd say probably 10 years. A lot of them, same darn bolts. But I had this rack, it was sitting over here by the door, that my intention was to divvy everything up and put it in here where I could use it. And that's, I got 90% done today. So I got my rack all organized. Every bolt, everything in this rack is original hardware for square body trucks. So every truck I've ever taken apart, every truck that I've parted out, every truck that I don't use the same bolts, when I put it back together, I keep the bolts. Mainly, I mean, from this bin here all the way to this bin here is just 5/16 and 3/8 body bolts, fender bolts, course port bolts, door bolts, hinge bolts, just body bolts. And you can go buy a 3/8 bolt or a 5/16 bolt and they'll fit, but they don't have the right washers on them. They don't have, I mean, some of the 3/8 ones for the bottom of the fenders have a washer this big, and some have a really small washer to fit somewhere else. And it's just hard to duplicate that. So if I have this assortment of bolts here that came off these trucks, they go right back in and work like they're supposed to. So I've got bumper bolts, shock bolts, body bushings, body spacers, shock mounting studs. I'd never ever throw away a body shim. You can't find any that are just like that. I mean, you can get aftermarket stuff, but it's never as good. It's not the same. So finally got that sorted out, except for this bin right here. And 60 to 70% of the stuff in this bin is all trim screws. And I didn't have enough left in me to sort out all them trim screws. But I got this whole area cleaned up and organized. This, my fab table, for the first time since I moved into this shop, I got it all cleaned up. I got this whole area cleaned up. Got my toolbox area all cleaned up. I don't know how much of this you guys have seen in the back of the videos, but I got OCD. I'm not gonna say I'm a neat freak, but I have OCD, and it bothers me when the shop's dirty. But I've been going project to project to project to project, and I just haven't made the time to clean up. And it finally just came to a head, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And with not feeling good, I can't wrap my head around some of the projects that I want to do. So I was like, man, it's a perfect day to just clean and organize. So that's what I did. So I got I was painting that piece of metal and doing a little bit of spot putty and stuff like that for my gauge bezel. So I put some putty on it, and while it was drying, I cleaned up, and then I sanded it and put some paint on it. While it was drying, I cleaned up and put some more paint on it. So I was kind of just doing other stuff through the day, so I wasn't trying to rush this. But here it is. It's all smooth. You can't see where the mohawk used to be anymore. It's all perfectly smooth. Paint came out exactly like I wanted. So I'm gonna get set up, throw the gauges in, show you guys what it's gonna look like all together, and then we'll go on from there. All right, you guys made it this far in this video. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a rough one. I've just kind of been running in circles, but we actually got to something that I think is cool, and we're gonna get this thing done. Looks pretty straight. I like the fact that it goes up to 140 miles an hour, but I'll probably never go that fast. I've got a certain layout that I want to do this in, and there's not any particular reason other than just what makes sense to me. So I'm doing my speedometer in the middle, obviously, oil pressure, top left, water temp, bottom left, volts, top right, and fuel gauge, bottom right. So, like I said, there's no, this is how it has to be or anything like that. It just makes sense to me, so that's what I'm doing. Alright, so that's how they go in. I'm going to go ahead and skip through this part so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me install every gauge. And then I'll slow it down and show you the end result. Alright. Alright, we got that done. So I can get away from the glare. Lays out nice, looks pretty good. And then I got these two holes down here and this hole up here. It's going to be right turn, left turn, and then your high beam indicator. And I've got one turn signal indicator to put in, but it was the only one I could find anywhere close to me. So I went online and ordered the other green one and the blue one, and they're supposed to be here this weekend, so I'll be able to finish it up. And my new dash, well, not new, but my replacement dash is supposed to be here this weekend. And I don't know when I'll get an opportunity to work on this truck again, but once my dash comes in and now that this gauge bezel's all done, I can go ahead and start wiring the truck. I didn't want to start wiring it with the, you guys see that? Got the little green LED light down there, and then there's going to be one over here and then a blue one up here for the high beam indicator. So we got that all done, and then I still got to clean all this stuff up. I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but we cut this out earlier in the video. That's going to sit on there just like that. And then once this gets all cleaned up also, it's going to go back on there like so. And then we'll have our factory gauge cluster with nice aftermarket gauges in it. So I've used these Dolphin gauges before. If you guys have never heard of them and you're looking for some aftermarket gauges, I'd check them out. They come with harnesses and everything, very detailed instructions. I mean, this kit even came with a fuel level sensor for the tank. So it comes with all the sensors, fuel, water, oil, everything. So I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. I've just used them before and I like them, and figured I'd share it with you guys if you've never heard of them before. It's a nice product. So, but like I said, it's all dirty and nasty right now, but once I get it all cleaned up, and I still have to drill the mounting holes where it mounts in the truck, but I'm not putting, there's no need to put any backing or anything like that on it. It's just going to go in the truck straight like this. Screws are going to go through the plastic. This clear plastic bolts to the black plastic, and then I'm going to drill the 4 holes where it mounts into the dash through the metal and just pinch it in there. And then I'll have to trim a little bit of the dash out behind this cluster to make room for all the gauges and stuff to go through, but it's not a big deal. I'll pre-wire this before I put it in the truck, and then when I put it in, I just got to hook everything up, so it'll be nice. But that's my gauge cluster. I'm proud of it. I hope you guys like it, and we'll move on. All right, not a very exciting week here at the shop, but I still got something done, which is the positive part. So here's that gauge cluster more up close if you didn't see it good from the other view. Take this dirty plastic off, but it came out really good. I'm really happy with it, and I think it's really going to add just a little bit of flair to the truck, which I don't know if it's going to need any. It's going to be low and obnoxiously loud. I think it'll gather enough attention, which I'm not necessarily looking for, just it will. But if you guys stuck around through the whole video, I appreciate it. I don't think this was one of the better ones, but I film everything I do, so don't get discouraged. Next week we're getting back on groundskeeper over there. We're gonna go and do the whole rear suspension, paint the frame, paint all the springs, rear end, and bring it down level with the front. So thank you all for watching. If you're not subscribed, please do. If you are subscribed, thank you very much. Comment, let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the dislike if you feel like it. Anything helps. So if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.